Because, if you understand the workings of your business, because that's what it is, it's a business, right? If you understand all the components, and I'm not saying by any means that I know it all, I'm just saying that was the only way I could learn is by actually talking to people. So that was the first thing, was development. And I think that's one of the most important parts of it, is that work on your script, in terms of the ideas and keep refreshing it and seeing what works, what doesn't work. If you can make a film that can at least give your investors a return on their investment, then then they'd want to invest again and again and again and again. So
Hi, I'm Yaku.
And I'm Kaylin.
And welcome back to Department Spotlight, which is the show where we speak to our friends and colleagues about their experiences in the film industry.
And today we'll be continuing our discussion with Sans Moonsamy. And we'll be diving more into the directing world, his directing debut, and also his role as a producer.
Exactly. And you will probably notice that some of our backgrounds change, some of our clothes change in the middle of this interview. And that's just because we like to record these podcasts in 1 hour and then split them up. But in South Africa, we have a thing called load shedding, which is where the government just turns off our power. So we had to cut our interview in the middle of this video. So you'll see our clothes change, our backgrounds change, but the content is still good. So I hope you enjoy it and just ignore that minor switch. Let's get into it.
I think for me, when it comes to films, I direct a lot of TV commercials now. Mm-hmm. And I think the beauty of a TV commercial helping your film skills is that you understand in a commercial, you've got 30 seconds or 45 seconds to 60 seconds to tell an entire story. Mm. Sometimes you may only have 15 shots in the entire ad, or sometimes you've got less, and you've got to be able to tell the story in that time. So when it comes to film, obviously you got a little bit of breathability and space from a time perspective, but it enables you to understand how to tell a story in a swifter way, in a more concise, clearer way. Yeah. Because remember, there's the visual element, there's the dialogue element. You can now bring in those things and be a lot sharper with how you structure your story without necessarily having to make it dialogue heavy or not. So you learn different things. So I think the point of that is that if you can understand how to tell a story in the shortest possible way, it's a lot easier when you've got a longer format to do it.
Yeah. Would you say that you mentioned that you worked on like all these departments, working your way to where you are now? Would you say that doing that also helped you to be able to know, okay, if I do it this specific way, then it'll tell the same story but shorter? How do you think doing all those jobs has sort of influenced the way you direct, the way you write, the way you act?
I think there's a few aspects to that. From a producer perspective, there's one, because you can understand all the different departments, you understand what goes into it, what each person has to do, so they can't bullshit me. So that's one major component. Because if you understand the workings of your business, because that's what it is, it's a business, right? If you understand all the components, and I'm not saying by any means that I know it all, I'm just saying that was the only way I could learn is by actually talking to people, understanding what they do technically, skillfully, but also emotionally as well. I think that was one of the most important things for me, is to understand the human aspect of it. At the end of the day, the sum of all of those parts is what's going to make a successful film. And I think we worked together almost 5 or 6 years ago, Kaylin.
Yeah,
you were part
I think about 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we worked on a pilot film called 12 at that point in time, and we didn't know what we were doing, to be quite honest. We had a team that sort of came in, the majority of the team, I think there were 12 people in the entire shoot in terms of
making the movie called 12.
Yeah, literally. And I mean, we were doing everything. We were cooking the food, bringing the food, dishing out the food, so from framing shots to doing sound, telling people to be quiet, all of that. We did it all. Like pretty much everybody that was on the set was literally all hands on deck kind of thing. And like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. We had an idea, we had a vision, but you learn so much when you're actually on set. And that was one of the most amazing, humbling, awesome experiences I've had in my life. And from there, obviously we jumped into the actual film that 12 became, Red Room, where we had the absolute delight of working with Kanye Mbao, who was a phenomenal actress. And as a director, that would have been my first official film, because obviously 12 was the school fees, really. And let me tell you, Red Room was a Muso experience in itself. I mean, we shot at that same location in Hillbrow, so we spent a lot of time there. Our crew had got sick. Kanye got sick. My wife was a co-producer and co-writer on that. Yeah, but it was an awesome experience, and I know the journey of what it took to actually get that film completed. And since then I've so much respect for filmmakers just to complete a film, because it's hard. In South Africa, it's hard. There's so many different components that come into play, finance, and we were supported. We had good partners. We had some amazing investors. We also had the DTI, who were amazing support as well, financially and beyond. So yeah, it was an awesome experience. And
that's awesome.
Under those circumstances, the film that we eventually made, I can tell you, we were so proud. We were nominated for numerous awards. We won awards. Kanye won best actress at one of the awards. We won best screenplay. I know I was nominated for best director, and amongst hundreds of films that were submitted. So we were so proud of it. And awards don't validate what we do. It never has for me. But it's a nice to have, knowing that you are being recognized by the industry and your peers. But yeah, look, our journey has just started. If it wasn't for COVID last year, we would have probably made another 2 films that we had on the cards to shoot last year. At the end of 2019, we actually filmed our big comedy called Who's My Daddy. At that, we had like the most magnificent cast, starting from Nadia Jafta, Alfred Ntombela. I mean, we had about 40 major stars, South African stars and South African legends that were part of it. And like I said right at the beginning when we were talking about it, building relationships and people that I was blessed to work with so many different people throughout my career. And obviously, we were supposed to open in June last year. We were going to have a massive Father's Day, obviously with the whole Who's My Daddy theme. But we had to put it on hold because obviously the industry's taken a knock in terms of cinemas itself. We had some amazing partners, guys like A.B. Musa from the Avalon Group, who was also part of it. And we had other awesome partners, guys like Asghar from Esquire, who's always been our partners. And then I think, Kellen, you may have met some of our other partners at Dev, Miraj and Associates. And just some amazing guys that just supported us. And you know what? You need that sometimes, not just from an investor financial perspective, but sometimes also just like knowing that there's people that are there believing in you, backing you. And if shit hits the fan, you've got someone that's there to go, hey, Sans, it's not so bad. It's going to be okay. Just keep believing, keep trusting in what you're doing, and trust your process. Keep learning, keep growing. And that's the only way we can have some level of success. And like I said, for me, it wasn't even about what people thought of the film. I know what journey we went through between Keru and myself as a couple to make those films. That was the honor and the privilege to finish the film. I mean, I still remember our final day of shoot. We had to do some pickups almost a year after we shot the original film. And we went into this basement of one of our friends' houses and shot like at the bottom. We made it seem like it was at the bottom of a church. We had no crew. I filmed it. I pulled focus with great difficulty. We used no sound in that particular scene. And then our sound engineer built up that entire scene and made it seem like there was dialogue and this and that.
Wow.
The actor that we needed for that scene wasn't available. He was now gone to London. Like a gentleman called Tom Fairfoot. So I had to phone Tom and say, listen, you're not there. So we basically filmed just the legs of somebody else and made it seem like it was him on the phone. And then we got Tom to do a voiceover, and thankfully Tom's a voiceover artist, so he had like professional mics in his house or studio, and he did like sort of voiceovers for us, and he sent it back down, and we literally stuck that in, built up the whole scene. And again, when I watched the film, can I tell you which scene I was most proud of?
That scene.
It wasn't that scene, but I'm glad that you guys picked up on that one. No, I'm kidding. It was that scene.
That's amazing.
But yeah, but it's those things that, for me, I'll always tell that story.
Just picking it up, talking about your directorial debut, which was Red Room, and 12, which was the project before that. If we could just quickly summarize that again.
Yeah, just talk about the process again for you and for any filmmakers that maybe also have struggled maybe to get their film made over a long period of time. What advice would you give them to persevere through all of it and eventually have like a successful story like you in the end?
I think the right word on that is persevere, because if I have to look back at that journey of 12, remember, like I said to you guys, 12 was a pilot. It was kind of us just figuring our way out and doing this for the first time. And then Red Room was the revisited version, where firstly Kira Kistner came and she edited that script, and turned the script from a basic script in 12 into something pretty damn awesome for Red Room. So that was the first thing, was development. And I think that's one of the most important parts of it, is that work on your script, in terms of the ideas, and keep refreshing it and seeing what works, what doesn't work. I think a lot of the times, particularly in South Africa, we take the script process a bit too lightly. Whereas in other industries, the script part of it is they spend so much time that once they get to shoot, the script is so nicely developed from a story perspective, from a character's perspective. And I think in South Africa, we kind of neglect that a little bit. And we were fortunate in a way that we did 12 like that, and it gave us the opportunity almost 2 years later to work on the script and really give it a fresh edge. And yeah, I mean, like I said, from a shooting perspective and a funding perspective and a producing perspective, finishing a film is very difficult. And I think I mentioned the last time, I have the utmost respect for anyone who's finished a film, and guys who've tried and not finished even, because it still takes so much of guts and bravery and sort of financial risk to do it.
So speaking of the financial risk, how did you get your funding? Obviously, I'm curious. I would love to get a film made. And a lot of South Africans maybe don't know exactly where to go. How did you go about funding?
Look, we were blessed in a way. Well, blessed. Like I said, we what we did was we used 12 as a springboard, to have something
like a proof of concept.
Yeah. So, there's so many businesses that have, I'm sure a lot of filmmakers go with a piece of paper to businesses, and businesses, those are businessmen. They don't understand. They don't understand the concept. They don't understand what's creatively coming out of our mouth and the vision that we are describing. They're businessmen. They see numbers. So in order for them to understand your vision, you almost have to show them something tangible, something visual that makes more sense to them, so that they can actually put their numbers towards it. So from that perspective, what we did was we used 12 as a pilot, and we were able to take that to different sort of investors. And fortunately for us, we've got quite a nice network of businessmen and guys who believed in what we were doing at that point in time. And they got involved, and we were able to raise the money and obviously to finish the film. But it wasn't easy, and thankfully those same sort of partners, they all joined us on the next journey when we did Who's My Daddy as well. So again, if you can make a film that can at least give your investors a return on their investment, then they'd want to invest again and again and again and again. So I think the aim is to try and create projects that are commercially viable as well. Obviously, do the artistic work that you want to do, but if you want to get investors and people from a financial perspective, it has to be commercially viable. Otherwise, they're not going to touch it. And if they do touch it in the first place, and you completely mess it up and don't make them back their money, because like I said, they're business people. They're in the numbers game. They're all about making money, whereas we're all about telling stories and our vision and all of that. But at the end of the day, film is still a business. America, Hollywood, they run it as a business, and that's why it's their greatest export.
No, Trey, I think that's an important thing you mentioned, is just remember that it's filmmaking is a business, and I think you should always just keep that in mind. And in your experience, do you believe that as a filmmaker, people should try and know every department when making a film? Like, they should get that experience of first, like you did, working in everything before maybe trying to tackle something like that? Do you think that's important in South Africa?
Look, it's not a necessity, but I think in South Africa, it's an opportunity to actually learn every department and really understand how sort of every facet of the film works, I mean, I think it's a responsibility almost of a producer to know all of those things. However, that said, I know that there are producers out there that don't necessarily know every sort of facet of it. That was just my learning curve, and I chose to learn every department because I wanted to. I think everything about film excited me, and so for my journey, I'd say yes, you should. But for everybody else, whatever works for them. But I think if you're in this business, it's bloody exciting to have the opportunity to actually learn every department and know exactly how it works. So people, from a producer's perspective, you know exactly what needs to be done. You'll understand, like on certain productions that you may not necessarily need the massive crews. You can actually shoot with crews that have multiple skills. And I think that's the way. I think COVID taught us a lot of lessons in terms of that. It's like you can actually shoot stuff with smaller teams. You don't need big teams where there's so many people running around, and then there's additional risk involved because of COVID and all of that. So now if you've got a smaller team, you can actually keep everybody sort of wrapped up in cotton wool and try and finish a film without having to deal with sort of COVID disruptions and stuff, which is obviously a cost factor and a time factor.
True. Actually, speaking a little bit on COVID, you don't have to elaborate too much on this, but do you think that COVID itself has changed the filmmaking industry in South Africa? And also, do you think it's also moved people more towards, we should be looking towards streaming as well? Just in your opinion, briefly.
Look, people are forced to stream. I think people are also, to a certain extent, also stream tired. Okay. People just that's the only option. Whereas before we had the choice of watching a little bit on TV, watching something on cinema, watching on our phones, or watching on our laptops or whatever, and choosing to stream when we wanted to stream. I think kind of now the only option is to stream, kind of thing. And that can frustrate people because we love having choice. We loved having the option of deciding what we want to watch and how we want to watch it. And for me, the experience of going to the movies is still paramount. And
definitely.
It's because it's not just watching, it's experience, it's your friends, it's going with your partner or having that popcorn and Coke, and it's more than just sitting in your bed and watching on your phone or sitting on your
audience experience. So
it's always nice. And I always I think I grew up at a time where cinema was magical still, and I still believe that. And then I think that's what enhanced my love for creating film that could end up in the cinema.
Beautiful. Yeah, totally agree.
Since you were talking about being a producer as well, what do you look for in a project? When you're deciding what you take on, or what you want to, put your name towards, what you want to spend that effort getting the funding for, what do you look for?
That's a tricky one. I think I mentioned previously that South Africans, obviously we've got such unique stories. I think unique stories is what I would always look for. And like I said, it's got to have commercial viability, because some stories are unique and has a very artistic feel that won't necessarily get lots of people watching it. It's a niche product. So I'm talking purely from a business perspective. You want to be able to tell stories that people would want to spend money on.
Makes sense.
True. Just to wrap up, I just want to ask any advice you would give out to anyone right now trying to make a movie in 2021, the you of 20 years ago, basically.
It's a tricky one. You've got to have thick skin. Firstly, you got to. If you want to make a film, firstly, have a great script. Believe in your script and understand exactly the vision of where you want it to be. Because if you don't, then you'll never be able to raise the money for it. Understand the commercial viability, and understand also what's going on in the world, what the trends are and what people want to watch. Because there's also a point of just creating content that is just reflective of you and what you want and what you want to put out there. You got to almost tailor that to understand what you want to put out there mixed with what the audience wants. Because you just put out what you want and nobody wants to watch it, then it kind of defeats the purpose, right? And I think sometimes a lot of creatives have that opinion where I want to put out what I want to do, and that's all well and good, but then you've got to obviously live with the consequences of potentially no one watching.
True. I think that's a perfect answer for that. I think that's it from our side. We just want to thank you so much, Sans.
Cool, guys.
It means so much to us, and we're really, really going to help a lot of people with this advice. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks
Have a great day.
You too. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks so much to Sans Moonsamy for coming onto this podcast and just sharing his career, sharing his knowledge, and sharing his advice. And if you liked it, please consider smashing the like button. It really helps us out a lot, and the YouTube algorithm is like, oh, people like it. Let's give it to other people. Just push it out there. So we would really appreciate it if you could just smash the like button.
And while you're down there, consider subscribing. We do this podcast once every 2 weeks. And check out our other videos. We have videos on filmmaking, editing, screenwriting. So please feel free to browse our content. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
And did you know that this podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else that you listen to your podcast? So if you want to check out the audio versions, the links are in the description. But until next time, go out there, stay safe, and make your movie.